we're here today with Nick from Whittle Marine. Can you please introduce Whittle Marine and a little bit about what you do here?
Yeah, so we're a classic wooden boat yard on the outskirts of Yarmouth, and we do lots of 1960s genre powerboats, all predominantly wooden built boats here, from carvel, clinker, right up to some of these cold and hot moulded wooden boats. There's a lot of history on the Solent and we are keeping some of it alive, and mainly all the boats here are built in Britain, either on the handball or cows, and one way or another they need our skills to keep them going for a little bit longer. In order to maintain some of these boats, which is getting harder and harder, we have to source some of the best wood. Obviously wood is sustainable because by the time it's grown, and we're looking after boats from 1960s, most of this is regenerative, so it's regrown and it is actually produced in a manner that we can maintain forests, repair boats and keep our history of boat building going traditionally. So this one particular log, which is ginormous, came from West Africa, Gabon, and it's one tree, which is phenomenal. So we get it cut and processed, but it travels all the way up to Germany where it goes through a sawmill and it gets selected into all the different cuts that we need, 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch and 4 inch, so we can maintain pretty much any kind of repair with that sort of variation. And then it stays in a kiln for up to 6 months, and the sawdust that's cut actually fires the kiln, so it's quite a nice all-round process. This could keep us going for about 10 years, maybe longer. But if a specific job comes in, then we won't be able to say we can't turn it away because we've got the timber to do it. So when the tree grows, obviously you have a sapling which pops up through the soil from the seed. That remains in the tree its whole life. So the middle of the tree is called the heartwood. This is the bit that's able to split. It's not necessarily what we need. It's very open grain, and that's because the sap never grows out. So effectively, as the tree gets bigger, the rings get tighter and the wood quality gets better and better until it reaches the sapwood. Sutu is a regular visitor to Yarmouth Harbour. Originally, their family's father raced this boat in 1972 and 73, hence the number 636. So those were the race numbers that she was given in the Cowes Torquay between 672 and 73. It's a great boat and very capable, and enjoys coming into Yarmouth and using all the pubs, restaurants, and also we look after him and the family and have done for the last 5 years. So this is a typical repair that we do on these ferries. They're veneered and they have about 9 layers of 2.5mm veneers. So this is how they're constructed. Very small thin veneers, and they're sort of double diagonally laid over the entirety of 9 layers. So that's what makes them so thick. This particular repair is where the anodes, electrolysis and the exhaust had caused rot and decay over many years. So we've cut it back, fanned our repair out, and then put all the packers and exhausts and trim tabs back on in order to get it back ready to paint. This will then be painted and then launched next Friday. So this boat, Scimitar, also enjoys coming to Yarmouth, enjoys the Solent, and relatively new. He bought the boat 2 years ago, and we are now painting the top sides. This particular owner just loves the boat to be in pristine condition. So we've put a new Burmese teak rail all the way around to follow the lines of the original design. New air scoops, and these will all be getting chromed up in London. The whole key about these are, because of their age, is to keep them exactly original and to keep all the original fittings and bollards so that they're exacting to how they were built in the 60s, which is quite difficult because over time people take nav lights off, fit plastic nav lights, things get lost, but we're all about purist, putting it back to how it was originally and making a real classic following, and something which is gathering real momentum, A, through selling and increasing the value of these boats, but also having a wonderful rally lined up at Yarmouth Harbour for the 40th anniversary. So the 40th anniversary is really, the club started in 1983 to make sure there was a gathering for all these boats from the 60s and 70s, and now that itself is celebrating its 40th anniversary. We've got about 35 boats attending Yarmouth, a marquee booked here, a big party, hors d'oeuvres, champagne on arrival. So it should be a great evening, great day. Another little speech. So they're lining up in their droves. Now we're specialised. Effectively, there is only 2 of us really doing this sort of type of work, or known for ferries, and we're the only ones on the Isle of Wight that predominantly specialise in them. This one, broadsword, has recently been purchased and come over from Lymington, and hopefully will stay on a mooring in Yarmouth, and commissioned us to do the work. Behind us we have another exacting swordsman This, interestingly, was owned by Peter de Savary. He's sadly passed, but he was a great entrepreneur, English businessman, and that was his boat and remained in the family for a while, and he's a great character.
So we're now in the finishing shed, so over to you, Nick, to explain these beautiful boats that we've got behind us.
So in the finishing shed, everything is seaworthy, fit and ready to go. And we try and maintain and store them correctly. But this boat could be in a museum. This is the Cowes Torquay winning powerboat, 1961. It was driven by Tommy Sopwith. Everybody has a link with aviation here. So all the boats were built by plane builders and most of the drivers were pilots. So Tommy Sopwith is the son of the Sopwith Camel builder, which was a great plane which did an awful lot in the war. He was also not only enthusiastic, but he had a lot of money behind him. He commissioned this boat and did the first Cowes Torquay race and won. So it all started 60 some years ago, the Cowes Torquay race with this boat, and it's the only boat to have won that's got a cabin, so a cabin cruiser. Since then, they've all got long bonnets, big engines, and having a cabin has never been in the race since. One of the interesting parts of scrutineering was you had to have enough cutlery for everybody on board, so if there's 4 members, there's 4 plates, 4 cups, 4 sets of cutlery. It's really quite cool. But this is something that's very famous, and a lot of people named their boats after this. So the boat's name is called Thunderbolt, and Thunderbolt has predominantly been a name used after this boat on many other boats that are due to have the reputation of going fast. 707 was raced around Great Britain in 1969. She was one of 5 built for the Ford team. So Ford, as we know, the cars, they built the engines and wanted to marinise their diesel engines and make a name in the marine industry. They cleaned up, won all the silverware, and were proven well, reliable, maintained diesel engines. And this boat was driven by Peter Twist. Peter Twist had a link with aviation. He actually set the airspeed record of 1,000 miles an hour over Leon Solent. Very famous guy, and he did that when he was 34. He then took this boat round Great Britain and won lots of accolades and huge success. She also did Cowes Torquay many times and is just known as a really fantastic seaboat. This is a levy Corsair. Levies are predominantly different from the Fairys, but they were both racing and they're both the 1960 genre. Both these boats' designs haven't changed from those early Cowes Torquay days. In fact, deep V hulls, racing and doing those Cowes Torquays all developed the boats that we know today, the high-speed ribs, the things that have proven speed and conditioned worthiness. So it all developed from these two. Interesting fact is that Sonny Levy, who designed this boat back in the late 60s, his son lives on the island, and the Levies are still a family that predominantly live at Prospect House in Cowes and keep the Sonny and Sir Max Aikins Museum going. This is the same hull as M, almost, just a slightly longer version from lovely James, who runs M Charter Business Secret Service, not so secret, out of Yarmouth Harbour. So this is the Pierre de la Resistance. This is my beautifully restored boat. I bought this boat 2.5 years ago from when it broke off its mooring in Lake Windermere. It stove the transom in and was an insurance write-off. I knew the history about this boat and how it did this fantastic race. In 1972, it left Houses of Parliament in London and epic voyage down to Monaco. So 2,700 nautical miles. They did it in 14 stages, and this boat got 6th overall. About 37 boats left and only 13 made the race. It was all sponsored by BP because at that point they promoted the fuel, and I think without the fuel sponsor they never would have been able to manage to do it. A lot of boats did actually sink off the Bay of Biscay, and Double Century was there and collected 2 crew members from various boats when they were in peril sinking. They even had to help scuttle the boats so they didn't become a floating object at sea, which is part of nautical protocol. All the lettering, numbers and everything is hand sign written, exactly how they used to do it back in the old days. There are no stickers or transfers. You know, these are hand-built wooden boats, hand-painted, hand sign written, and I think it just lets you know how quality was back then and how cool it looks over, say, a sticker. A lot of modern restaurants now are hand sign writing, and it's come back. It's a real skill set, and it's a nice thing to see. So this boat, Double Century, was featured on the front cover of Classic Boat magazine in December and was a sellout, and we're very proud to say that she won Best Restored Power Vessel for Classic Boat Awards 2026, and she was up against some pretty tough competition, so to get this was a great achievement and a huge success for the yard. I'm very proud to see her coming in and out of Yarmouth, really, and up and down the Solent. Mentioned about sign writing and how classy it is. So unlike a sticker, you can paint letters as close or as far apart. This one has a lot of variations, and it's not actually how you would set it out, but because it's exacting to 1972, we've put all the quirky faults back in of the sign writer, whoever he was back then. We've done it exactly how he did it, right or wrong. The Union Jacks are all hand painted. This is a mathematical equation for the Union Jack actually, and it varies from port to starboard. It's always flying aft of the flagpole, no matter which way you paint it. So if you look at your Union Jack, it's stitched differently from one side to the other. These lines change accordingly. The Ford badge is all hand painted. This is reflex blue, and this is the colour that Ford used in 1972, and we were able to get this colour from the guys that do all the hand sign writing at Goodwood Revival. Right the way through to the Mermaid engines, and of course Double Century, which is written down the side. Double Century was because the two owners of this boat were the sherry importers for Domecq Sherry, and Double Century Sherry was the boat, the bottle at the time of the sherry, so that's why they got Double Century on the side, and they were given the race number 200. I think they actually had to bribe them with lots of bottles of sherry in order to get it, but what a great combination of 200 and the sherry Double Century.
So Nick, can you tell us a little bit, how did you get into this?
So wanting to be on the water and owning a boat is very expensive. So the only way I could actually do that is to go and work for a yard where I might get a cheaper mooring. So I ended up at Riviera Boatyard on the Riviera in Yarmouth, obviously, next to the harbour. And at that time it was called YMS. So I went there really as about 15 years old, learned how to pull boats out, strike them off, anti-foul them, and also how to take banter. From there, we were lucky enough that the Yarmouth 23s, the little gaffers that attain and attend Yarmouth Harbour, they had started building them. So there was an apprenticeship option to go and work and build the Yarmouth 23. So I did that right up until they ended that. And we built probably about 15 Yarmouth 23s whilst I was there. I then went to Cowes for Shepherd's Wharf, building and maintaining boats for different firms. I then also built some houseboats at Island Harbour in Newport, and then came full circle back to Yarmouth to look after the XODs. We've maintained about 30 XODs, from building masts, planking, removing horn timbers, some quite complicated jobs which we were just keen to take on as they were badly repaired at the time, and hopefully we've improved that class. We've also embarked on building new X's, so we got permission to build a new XOD, so we're licensed approved builders for both masts and X's, and we have built the first Yarmouth built XOD since 1983, and that's a great class. Hopefully this boat that we've built will go on for 100 years, and it allows your name and reputation to live on for many, many years.
So Nick, can you tell us about the first boat restoration you've ever done, please?
So there's been many boat restorations, and I can't quite remember the first, but the first that sticks with me is this little boat here. It was a real honour to be given the privilege to work. Not only did I have the skill set, but I was young, and to be trusted with something as important as this, it really lasted an impression. So not only have I always wanted to main this boat after giving that permission, but it inspired me to try and purchase the boat. So I'm now the owner of this boat after doing its first restoration, and it's more like a custodian. I now, not to sell it and make quick money, but to maintain it for many years to come, and then hopefully pass it down to my children. And that's something that's important to me.
So Whittle Marine is very well known for their XOD boats. What makes them so iconic?
I think not only are they pretty and well balanced to sail, they started in 1911, and predominantly there's been fleets in Parkeston, Itchenor, Cowes, Yarmouth, Lymington, and it builds up a huge number of boats for Cowes Week. So what makes it really special is, to today, with all the modern boats that race in Cowes Week, the XODs are still predominantly the biggest class that race, and we've seen anywhere between 60 and 80 boats over the start line, and incredibly in the centenary year, which was 2011, we saw somewhere in the region of about 125 to 140 boats going over a start line, which gave cows a real job to try and do a running start.
Yeah, I can imagine. Okay, so thanks so much, Nick, for having us here today. We hope you've enjoyed today's video. We are going to be coming back to Whittle Marine because you have
a brand new X-boat, which we'll have a huge launch party for, and it'd be great to do a feature and promote it a bit more for Yarmouth.
So be sure to come back and check that video out.